And it's 2 airs tonight at 8, 7 Central on CBS. And that is the news this morning. Now here's Brian.
All right, Julie, listen to this one. In 1956, Sergio Engels came to America from Italy when he was just 5 years old. He's been here ever since, serving in the U.S. Marine Corps and then working in law enforcement for more than 20 years. He had a Social Security card and was a registered voter. So it came as a big surprise to Engels when he recently found out that he was not a U.S. citizen. He's in Jacksonville, Florida. Mr. Engels, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Gumbell.
When did you realize you weren't a citizen?
Well, I had entered into the University of North Florida and had gotten grants, and I was on deferment. And of course, through that process, the Social Security office was notified, and they notified the college. Of course, the college told me. So I went down to the Social Security office, and they told me the bad news.
Right. All right. Your parents had never filled out the forms. So
apparently.
So what did you do then?
I went down to INS and I called them actually and asked them what to do. I told them the complete story of my life, and they suggested that I fill out the N-600 and attach the necessary fees, and of course I did so, and I waited until I had some response. Of course, at that time I put everything I had on hold.
Okay, you did all the steps. Why didn't you get your citizenship?
Well, now that's not a question that I can answer. I did receive a letter from the INS, and of course that letter was a denial letter for that application of citizenship. So I just can't answer that.
So now you're planning to go back to Italy?
Well, it's not a plan.
Where you haven't been your whole life and you don't even speak the language, I understand.
That's correct. It's not a decision based on anything else but a last resort. I must admit, the Italian government, when they heard my situation, I mean, I had no other choice but to go to them and seek assistance. Obviously, the INS were closing the doors on me. I had contacted several attorneys and even the congresswoman, and it was as if I was coming up against a brick wall at each door. So the Italian government, the Italian embassy, decided that having after contacted the INS at their office, we gave them a second chance to re-look into this case. They decided to go ahead and reissue my passport, and of course, you know what that means. I'm now an Italian citizen.
Yeah, but the INS says all you have to do is fill out the form again, and you can have your citizenship.
Well, there's no guarantees that that form, another form that I fill out, is going to, in fact, produce me with a citizenship. I mean, I remember I had filled out the form that they had requested, and there were no guarantees then.
Okay. All right. Let me come back to you in a second. Your attorney is here with me in New York, Michael Wiles. Michael, good morning.
Good morning.
Is this all that uncommon?
I just want to put this in context, if I can, Bryant. I got a phone call yesterday asking from the National Police Defense Foundation to help this gentleman, a gentleman who served in our Marines, is a decorated police officer, and has declared that he's a citizen. Does this happen often? Unfortunately, yes. There are a lot of good people that get lost in the system.
Okay, but as I understand it, and please correct me if I'm wrong, if Mr. Engels just fills out the form, let's forget that he already filled them out and it didn't happen, and everybody knows about his situation now. If he just filled out the form, he can get his citizenship, true?
Well, cutting down to the simple chase, you get citizenship by either a derivative basis or based on being born here. His father was an American citizen, and the government said you have to prove that your father was in the United States 10 years before you were born, 5 years of which were after the age of 14, because that was the law that was penned by Congress at that time. He didn't have that proof then. And when they denied the case because he didn't have that proof, the government didn't tell him that he was eligible to naturalize because he served in military hostilities.
Okay. All right. Bottom line is he is eligible to naturalize.
Absolutely. And I spoke yesterday.
So he can get his citizenship.
Absolutely.
So what's wrong with that, Mr. Engels?
Well, Mr. Gumbell, you must understand that for the past few years, I've endured lots of suffering, and in doing so, I've lived with the fact that I'm living under the denial letter. This is what they've given to me. I feel that in filling out the N-600 form, I did what they wanted me to do. Now, if they ask me for more forms, more fees, that's to me is looking for money now.
But in all fairness, Mr. Engels, that's being a little bit hard-headed, isn't it?
No, actually, Mr. Gumbell, I mean, I can understand and empathize with where you're coming from, but you must understand I've suffered through this. My family's suffered. I'm economically depressed as far as my finances are concerned. And the last resort that I took, I'm not moving to Italy to make a statement. That was my last choice.
Sergio, if I may, it's Michael again. I just want to say for the record, this is a case that we received yesterday. I'm accepting on a pro bono without a fee basis. This speaks to a great policy in our country. This gentleman is entitled to citizenship.
No, I understand
has
that.
Served well.
I understand that, but is your legal advice going to be to him hey, go ahead and fill them out again and be a citizen?
Absolutely. But this is a little bigger than this. The Immigration Service, as well-intentioned as they are, is understaffed. They need more support. They need more help. They are thankfully responding to my client's claim. I got a phone call late last night where a very high official in the Immigration Service said that they would honor his application. Yeah. But this speaks to a great policy here, Bryant. Cutting down to the chase, we have a very incoherent policy.
I understand.
The Supreme Court is now releasing criminals onto the streets of our country when we need to assess our vulnerability with regard to terrorism and such.
That's a whole different topic. We're just hoping the bottom line works out for Sergio. Sergio, Mr. Engels, I wish you all the best, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Gumbell.
And Michael, thank you.
My pleasure.
All right, it's 8:11. Let's check the weather. Mark? There you go. Many people dream of working on Broadway. These kids behind me are doing something to make that dream come true. They're attending Camp Broadway, a summer camp for wannabe stars. Tony Parisi's the camp's artistic director, was in the original company of 42nd Street.
Right.
Tony, good to see you.
Hey.
What is Camp Broadway?
Camp